Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and I want to help you live with more clarity, confidence, and purpose so you can truly have it all. Let's do it. What's going on, my awesome friend? Welcome back to the podcast. I am Matthew Bivens, your balanced lifestyle coach, and this podcast is the place to learn how to have it all and live your abundant, loving life. If you are tired of feeling stuck and you're looking for a path towards more clarity, confidence, and purpose, then my friend, you are in the right place. Episodes of the podcast drop on Tuesdays, and if you're new to the show, welcome. Thanks for hanging out, and I encourage you to go check out the back catalog of the podcast. I've been publishing this show since 2016. I've covered hundreds of different topics, and there is bound to be an episode that will address what it is you are going through right now. So you can go to my website, matthewbivens.com, and check the podcast link at the top, and there you can search through all of the episodes. I have one big request for you. If you could hit subscribe on whatever podcast player you are listening to this on right now, that would be awesome. And if you have a question for me or you ever want to reach out directly, suggest an episode topic, anything like that, you can hit me up at matthew@matthewbivens.com. That is my email address. Again, matthew@matthewbivens.com. Today's episode is all about learning to embrace the ups and downs that come with chasing your dreams. I know if you're listening to this podcast, then there are some big things that you are playing for in life. Whether you know exactly what they are or not, you are up to something very, very interesting. And as you are out there chasing those dreams or just living your life, honestly, just living your life, you are guaranteed to have some great days and some awful days. And sometimes things are going to feel like they're going your way, and other times they're going to feel like you are swimming upstream. And the way that you relate to those ebbs and those flows is going to greatly impact how you end up emerging from them. For some people, when you experience a down moment, that's going to be confirmation for you that you are incapable, that you are unlucky, that you are destined to fail, because that's the way that you are relating to those down moments. And for today, what I want to help you see is that one, ebbs and flows are perfectly normal. Perfectly normal to have ups and downs in life. In fact, it's actually built into the process of life, which means you cannot avoid them, no matter how hard you try. And two, I want to show you how you can take control over your situation, over those ebbs when you're having a down day, or maybe it's a down week. And I want to show you how you can become an active participant in creating your own rebound. So to kick this off, I'm going to play a clip for you from an interview that I was listening to recently. This is a conversation on the Rich Roll podcast, and this conversation is between the host of the show, Rich Roll, who is an ultra endurance athlete and author, and his guest, a woman named Alexi Pappas, Pappas, who is an Olympic runner and an award-winning filmmaker. And so the two of them are talking about, being athletes and pursuing your goals and all sorts of those things. And in this particular clip, Alexi shares the rule of thirds. And this is something that she learned from a mentor of hers. And it really helped her to form a new relationship to the ups and downs that came with chasing her goals. So let's listen.
The rule of thirds, which I was told by a coach. This is in the book, but I think it's life-changing.
I love the rule of thirds.
It's amazing. So my Olympic coach told me after a particularly challenging workout where I could not hit my splits before going to the Rio Olympics, that was okay. It was the rule of thirds. And he was an Olympian, so I was, I always soaked in everything he said. And I was like, what's the rule of thirds? And he said, when you're chasing a dream or doing anything hard, you're meant to feel good a third of the time, okay a third of the time, and crappy a third of the time. And if the ratio is roughly in that range, then you're doing fine. So today was the crappy day along your dream chasing.
Right.
And if the ratio is off, like you feel too good all the time or too bad, then you got to look at if you're fatiguing or not trying hard enough or pushing yourself. So I think with those days that you're talking about where like creativity doesn't come or doesn't feel great, you still show up because maybe that's your crappy day, but it doesn't mean that you quit the goal. It doesn't mean that you freak out. it means that you show up and live through that crappy that dip because you're chasing a dream and you're doing something hard. So I think I've been able to embrace the ups and downs of the creative dream chasing by way of understanding the parallel in the athletic world. And likewise, in running, I rarely win. Like, I've won races, but to not win a race doesn't mean that I haven't done really well. And there's a lot of no's you get in Hollywood, like when you're trying to make a movie. And I think just being able to weather the no's, like weather all of that and take it not as a loss.
I really love how simple this perspective is. There are going to be great times, there are going to be normal times, and there are going to be crappy times. It's part of the journey of life, particularly when you're pursuing your dreams, or like Alexi said, when you're pursuing something hard, and it's all okay. You know, don't panic when you're in crappy times. It's so easy to want to completely jump ship and start making decisions that are driven by the emotion of the moment. But that's exactly what you don't want to do when you're experiencing an ebb. What you want to do instead is to show up. Still show up. Weather the storm. And know that the pendulum is going to swing back in the direction of feeling normal and then eventually feeling good. And all of that reminds me of what's called the law of rhythm. The law of rhythm says that all things ebb and flow. Just like a pendulum. It swings to the left, swings to the right. The seasons, the tides, even something like the economy, it ebbs and flows. It goes up, it goes down. And what the law of rhythm teaches us is that when we begin to experience an ebb, or one of the crappy times in life, what you want to be careful of is not to add to it. You don't want to add to that backward swing of the pendulum. The way that we add to the ebb or add to the backward swing is that we make really dramatic decisions based off of how we're feeling in that moment. Usually the decisions are based off of fear or scarcity, right? You don't want to do that because that's just going to add to the pendulum swinging in the direction you don't want it to go. What you want to do instead is weather the storm. Understand that, yep, it's swinging to the left and eventually it'll swing back to the right. And what you want to do is to make decisions that are going to contribute to the inevitable forward swing of that pendulum. That means doing things that are going to contribute to the tides shifting for you and for things moving in the direction that you want them to move in. So I have an example. This went down with a friend of mine recently. They had a performance review at their job. All right, things were going pretty normal at their job, and then they got this performance review, and the review wasn't great. And that was a surprise to them. So they were told that, hey, you haven't been hitting your marks. We're going to be keeping an eye on you. We're going to revisit in a couple of weeks to see where things are. And that started their pendulum swinging backwards. They felt kind of shooken up by this. They felt like things were ebbing, right? And so in that moment, initially, they got into a state of mind where they started to blame the boss, blame the situation around them, blame their circumstances, and all of that energy that they were putting out there was adding to that pendulum swinging in that backwards direction. And then he and I had a conversation, and we talked a little bit, and I shared with him that, there are things that are within your circle of influence. There are things that you have direct control over that can help the pendulum start to swing in the other direction. For example, you have control over what you make this feedback, this performance review, what you make it mean about you, right? You have control over what you do next. Are you going to feel helpless or are you going to feel motivated? You have control over the effort that you're putting into your work, your level of proactivity, and so on. And after that conversation, he moved out of that circle of concern where all the things were focused on the stuff around him, the boss, the situation, the policies at work, so on and so forth. He moved out of that and got back into his circle of influence where he was able to say, okay, here are the things that I can control. And what happened was that pendulum didn't swing as far back as it could have. The ebb wasn't as dramatic. And so I share that because, again, it illustrates that there are going to be these times in life where things are crappy, right? When you're going after your goals, when you're really gunning it, You're going to have the good times, the normal times, and the crappy times. And that's okay. Because when you combine that rule of thirds with the law of rhythm, it lets you know that that is totally natural. All things go through that cycle. They flow in and out. And so what you then must remember is that you have the power to influence how you relate to the ebbs and flows, how you relate to life's changes. And you have the power to actually make decisions that are going to lead to the results that you ultimately want. You are not powerless. And so when you are in those crappy days, those 33% of the time when you're not feeling great, right? You can go with it and just go with the flow and ride it out. Sometimes I do that. If I'm feeling down, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I just need to let this get out of my system and I'll feel better tomorrow. I'll sleep it off. But sometimes you might want to take a more proactive approach, right? And for that, I wanted to share with you some insights that I think can really help you when you're having a bad day. These come from Robin Sharma. Robin Sharma is an author. He's authored some best-selling books out there, including one book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and one called The 5 a.m. Club. And there's a video. I'm not going to play the video for you. I'm just going to summarize it real quick. But in the video, he has some really great action items for when you're having a crappy day and you want to get back into feeling better. I'm going to put a link to the video in the show notes for this episode if you want to watch it. It's pretty short. It's like 8 or 9 minutes. But I'm going to summarize the 5 steps, the 5 things you can do when you're having a bad day. And Robin puts them in the form of the 5 Ps. The 5 Ps are perspective, pivot, pharmacy, pages, and planet. So, perspective. First, when you're having a bad day, you want to try to shift your perspective, right? When you're in it, you're in the ebb, you're in the down moment, like your face is 2 inches off the ground and you're just seeing things exactly right in front of you. So what you want to do is try to get an elevated perspective. How can you go to 10,000 feet and be able to look at this situation from a different perspective? One question you can ask yourself, and this is what Robin says in the video, he says, did anybody die here? That question right there will give you some real quick perspective. Did anybody die? No? Nobody died? Okay, cool. Now we have an elevated perspective. Things aren't as terrible as we might think that they are. They may not be as terrible as what we're telling ourselves they are, right? So the first thing you want to do when you're having a crappy day, get some perspective. Sometimes you can gain perspective all on your own by asking yourself that question, did anybody die here? Sometimes you might have to go and have a conversation with a person who's not in it the way you are in that moment. And that's fine. Bottom line is, step number 1 is to get some perspective. Number 2 is pivot. Pivot means to create some sort of shift, right? A lot of times when we're in that funky space, we're feeling like a victim. We're feeling like things are happening to us. My buddy was feeling like his job was out to get him. The policies were against him. And so number 2 tells us to pivot. And you can pivot by asking yourself the question, what's the opportunity here? If you ask yourself that question, what is the opportunity here? What's going to happen is your brain is going to go hunt for the answer. And if you're hunting for what the opportunity is, you are going to feel more empowered when you arrive at the answer. That's one of the amazing things about questions. A lot of times in life, we ask ourselves questions where the answer is not going to help you feel better. I've had people, ask themselves questions like, well, what's wrong with me? Well, if you get an answer for that question, you're probably not going to feel better, right? But in this case, to pivot means to ask the question, what's the opportunity here? Because that down moment that you're feeling, there's absolutely something you can learn from it. There is some sort of opportunity, an opportunity for you to grow, an opportunity for you to heal something, an opportunity for you to let go. Whatever it is, there's an opportunity present. And if you can spot it, you are on the road to being able to do something about it. Number 3, when you're feeling crummy, you're having a bad day, Robin Sharma says the third P is pharmacy. What is pharmacy? Well, you go to a pharmacy to get drugs, to feel a certain way, to get chemicals that are going to interact with your body in a certain way. So pharmacy in this context means exercise your body, because when you exercise your body, there is a whole pharmacy of things that happen within your brain. What does that mean? Well, we have these chemicals, these neurotransmitters that are released when we do and perform certain activities. For example, when you go for a hard run or you do a hard workout and go for a long bike ride, your body is going to release dopamine. Dopamine is the pleasure chemical. Your body will also release serotonin, which is the happy chemical. And when you're exercising and moving your body, it will reduce the stress hormone. It'll reduce cortisol in your body. Think about that phrase, the runner's high. Runner's high means that at the end of a run or at the end of an exercise, you feel better. You feel high. Your state has elevated. It has improved. That happens whenever I go and do a workout. No matter how I'm feeling before the workout, afterwards, I'm always feeling so much better. So Robin Sharma's advice for handling a bad day is go and exercise. Go and move your body, and your body is going to release all of these different chemicals which are there to help you feel better, to feel happy, to feel pleasure. And that can absolutely help get you out of this funky space you might find yourself in. The fourth P is pages. Pages has to do with journaling, writing things down. So for this recommendation, Robin Sharma says, get your journal and just write your heart out. Release all your emotions, release all your pain, all your confusion, your frustrated thoughts. Get it all out of your brain and get it onto the page. And I have found that has been so incredibly helpful to me when I'm feeling in a funk, right? Because when you're in that ebb, when you're in that down moment, your mind can just swirl. And a lot of times the things that the thoughts that are going through your mind, they aren't helping you to emerge from the funk. They're just adding to it a lot of the times. And I know for myself, when my thoughts are going in that funky direction, then my feelings and my emotions start going in that funky direction as well. And it's just a downward spiral. So the P, pages idea is to just get it out. Get it out and you will feel so much better. Because all of that energy that is within you, that's lower state energy, lower vibration energy in the form of your sadness, your anger, your pain. And again, if it stays within you, it's going to have an impact on you. It'll impact your perspective. It'll impact what you think is possible. It'll actually impact your body. A lot of dis-eases are created because we hold on to that lower energy. So what you want to do is get it out. And an easy way to do that is to just journal. For me, I don't journal as much as I will speak out loud the things that I'm feeling that I need to get out of myself. I do it in the car frequently. I'll be driving, I'll be feeling some sort of frustration, some annoyance, some pain, and I'll just start talking. And I find it has the same benefit to me as journaling, right? Just talk it out. And I can talk a lot faster than I can write. So I find that I can actually really get everything out if I'm just speaking it. And then after doing that for 1 or 2 minutes, I feel so much better. It feels like a weight has been lifted. So however you're going to do it, get that stuff out of you. Get it out on the page, get it out in the car, whatever it is, just release it. The fifth P, the fifth and final P, is planet. Planet. And what this means is get out into nature. Go and connect with nature. Breathe in some fresh air. Feel the sun on your face. See the sky. Instead of staring at the ceiling that's 10 feet above your head, go and look at the sky and see trees, see the tops of the trees, the canopy, see the birds. Get out and be in nature. Being in nature will actually impact your serotonin levels as well. It can boost serotonin, which again, that's your happy chemical, the happy neurotransmitter. So when you're having a crummy day, when you're feeling the ebbs and you're feeling down, go and be in nature, go get grounded, go get connected with nature, and check in with yourself and see if you feel better. A 5-minute walk in nature can have a pretty dramatic impact on how you feel. So once again, to summarize Robin Sharma's advice when you're having a bad day, do the 5 Ps. The first is perspective. Try to find an elevated perspective above the problems that you're in right now. The second P is pivot. Ask yourself, what's the opportunity here? And see if you can't shift and look at it from a different angle. The third P is pharmacy. That is all about exercising your body, and watch as your body naturally releases these hormones and chemicals that are going to make you feel better. The fourth P is pages. This one is about journaling and really just getting these thoughts and feelings out of you and putting them down on paper or getting them out of you in some manner. And the fifth P is planet. It's going out in nature, getting grounded, getting centered in nature. And if you do these things, you can just do one of them. But if you do all 5 of them, I can almost guarantee you, you will shift how you are feeling. You will slow down the momentum of that pendulum moving in the ebb direction, which will help start building momentum in the flow direction. And now keep this in mind. Each of those 5 things I just shared with you, in order for you to do them, you must be proactive. You have to be proactive. And that is just timeless advice for, in general, being proactive. That means you aren't just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It's about going and creating what it is you want to experience. So if you want to experience a great day, cool. Go and do some things that are going to help you have that experience. It's required. It's part of having it all, living your abundant, loving life, is being proactive. So remember that you're going to have to take control, take your life, take the reins, and go if you want to get out of feeling like you're having a crummy day. All right, to wrap up this conversation, I want to leave you with a few things. I want you to remember a few things. First is that the ebbs and flows are a part of life. So don't get too excited when things are going really well, and don't get too down when things are feeling crummy. Because the key to success is mastering that balance between the two states. All right, it's to keep your pendulum from swinging really far on one side and then really far the other direction. Because a huge swing to the right must be balanced out by a big swing to the left. That's just the law of rhythm. So your job is just keep it nice and easy. When you're feeling a down moment, don't add to it. Don't add to those down moments. Making decisions from a place of fear, from a place of scarcity, making decisions that are fueled by your strong emotions in that moment is probably going to make your pendulum swing even further back. So instead, just take a breath and remind yourself of the rule of thirds. I'm going to feel good some of the time, I'm going to feel normal some of the time, and I'm going to feel crappy some of the time. And all of that is okay. And the third takeaway for today is that if you find yourself in a down spot and you don't want to just ride it out, you have tools that you can turn to, which are proven to help turn a bad day into a good day. It's the 5 Ps. Use the 5 Ps to help shift how you're feeling. And no matter what's going on, I can almost guarantee you can do at least one of those Ps. So give it a try and see how you feel afterwards. I'm very excited for you and what you're going to be creating with the insights from today's episode. Remember, you have the power to create the life and the experience that you want. If you can create crappy times, then darn it, you can create some great times as well. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you have any questions, any thoughts, any feedback for me, please shoot me an email at matthew@matthewbivens.com. Have an awesome rest of your day. I appreciate you, and I'm sending so much love your way. My name is Matthew Bivens, and here is to you having it all. Quick note about the Having It All podcast. I am not a doctor nor a licensed therapist. I'm a guy with a story and a passion for conscious conversation. My thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are my own. So please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider regarding any questions or issues you have related to your personal, physical, or mental health.